Hey everyone! Today we're going to do something a little different. We're stepping back in time into a moment that history just lost, a lecture that was never finished, in a library that was destined for flames. We're going to explore a really fascinating modern attempt to reimagine what might have been the final lesson of Hypatia of Alexandria. So yeah, let's try to piece together a lecture that was quite literally lost to smoke.
This quote, it just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly frames the entire story. On one side, you have this world of pure logic and reason, represented by the philosopher Hypatia. And on the other, you have these chaotic forces that were about to just consume her city, and all of her work.
So, to really get a feel for what was lost, we first have to understand the world it all came from. Let's take a trip back to ancient Alexandria in its final flickering moments.
For centuries, Alexandria wasn't just another city. It was the center of the intellectual universe. Its great library was the stuff of legends, holding pretty much the accumulated knowledge of the entire ancient world. It was this incredible hub of science, philosophy, and discovery, a true beacon of human intellect.
But that beacon was flickering out. See, Alexandria at the time was an absolute tinderbox of religious and political conflict. The rational, ordered world of the library was under serious threat from this rising tide of fanaticism. And this wasn't some slow, gradual decline either. We're talking about a rapid, violent extinguishing of a flame, a total cultural eclipse.
And right in the middle of all this chaos, you have Hypatia trying to deliver one last lesson. And that, of course, brings us to the core mystery of this whole thing. What knowledge precisely turned to smoke?
It's a haunting question, isn't it? You know, when we talk about things like burning libraries, the loss can feel, well, abstract. But in this case, we can actually try to make it concrete. What specific ideas, what tools, literally vanished when Hypatia's world was destroyed?
The scale of what was lost is just staggering. We're not just talking about one lecture on philosophy. We're talking about her unique insights into Neoplatonic logic, her custom-built astrolabe, which was probably way more advanced than anything else at the time, years and years of astronomical data she had compiled. What was lost wasn't just information. It was a whole way of seeing the universe, an entire worldview built on beautiful mathematical clarity.
So you're probably thinking, if it's all gone, how in the world can we even begin to piece it back together? Well, we start with the echoes, the little fragments that somehow managed to survive the flames.
Imagine trying to understand a masterpiece painting, like the Mona Lisa, by just looking at a few scattered chips of paint. That's pretty much the challenge here. We don't have the original lecture, we don't have the astrolabe, all we're left with are these scattered shards. Little clues to a mind that was once so complete and so brilliant.
These fragments are our raw materials, so we've got bits and pieces of astronomical data from that period. We have other, more general texts on the Neoplatonic principles that she would have been teaching, and crucially, we have secondhand accounts, things like notes and letters from her students and her peers describing her ideas. It's like historical detective work at its absolute finest.
Okay, and this is where the story takes a really cool, modern turn. Let's look at how brand new technology is being used to basically breathe life back into these ancient fragments.
This slide really shows you the bridge between two completely different eras. Over on the left, you've got the ancient inputs, the philosophical framework she worked in, that fragmented data, the historical accounts. And on the right, the modern tools we're using to process them. AI for synthesis, data visualization to see patterns we'd otherwise miss, and algorithms to help reconstruct what's gone.
The process itself is actually pretty logical, which feels right. First, you gather up every scrap of historical evidence you can possibly find. Then, you build this rigid structure based on the known rules of Neoplatonic philosophy. That's kind of like the container. Next, you let an AI loose inside that container to intelligently fill in the massive gaps. And the final step, visualize the result, creating something tangible we can see and understand from all this lost knowledge.
So what happens when you combine the rigid, ordered mind of an ancient philosopher with the almost limitless generative power of a modern AI? You get a collision, a really interesting one.
Okay, so first, the foundation, Neoplatonic logic. This whole philosophical system was all about order. The big idea was that the universe is a rational, understandable system, and that you can unlock its secrets using mathematics and pure reason. In this view, everything has a place, everything has a purpose, and there's a logical connection between all things.
So just try to picture it. This was the world Hypatia lived in, and the one she taught. A world where the movements of the stars were this beautiful geometric dance, totally predictable and crystal clear. It's a world of pure logic.
But, and this is key, the reconstruction doesn't stop with just logic. To represent that rising smoke of fanatical destruction, the AI also introduces chaos into the system. It fills the gaps not just with the most logical next step, but with plausible yet unpredictable variations. It's representing the messy, violent reality that tore her world apart.
And the results of all this is that intellectual collision we talked about at the very beginning. Look, it's not a perfect historical reproduction. It can't be, right? All the pieces aren't there. Instead, it's this powerful synthesis, a kind of digital ghost, built from the framework of ancient clarity and then fleshed out with the calculated chaos of the modern unknown.
So, after all this work, we have to ask the big question. Why does this ghost matter? I mean, why go to all this trouble to try and rebuild a single lecture from so long ago?
Because this project is so much bigger than just Hypatia. It's really a statement about our relationship with history itself. It's about refusing to just accept that what's lost is lost forever. It's about using the amazing tools we have today to reach back and try to understand our own past on a deeper level.
This whole effort really highlights this fundamental human tension, you know? On one hand, you see just how fragile knowledge is, how entire worldviews can be completely wiped out by fire and fanaticism. But on the other hand, you see our relentless drive, not just to preserve what we have, but to actually go back and recover what we've lost.
And that kind of leaves us with a final, pretty powerful thought. This is just one lecture from one philosopher. But the techniques, and more importantly, the drive behind this project, well, they open up some incredible possibilities. It really forces us to ask, if we can do this for Hypatia's lecture, what else is out there, just waiting for us to rescue it from the smoke?